Welcome to Resume the Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Page, and I'm here to spread the message that you can, in fact, be happy in your career. I'm a former executive recruiter turned career coach, and I am obsessed with learning about why people have chosen their career, what led them to that decision, and how they achieved happiness in the process. So, come join the ongoing conversation that exposes you to career paths of all origins with one thing in common: happiness. So, press play and let's resume the conversation with this week's episode. Welcome to today's episode. We are so excited today. We have a wonderful guest, Melissa Gray, who is just a beacon of guidance for business owners navigating the very complex journey from concept to profitability. So Melissa specializes in transforming visionary ideas into lucrative assets, crafting bespoke growth and risk management strategies in close collaboration with her clients. She understands that for entrepreneurs, the prospect of legal counsel can be very, very daunting, a hurdle on their path to business success. But Melissa's expertise offers a reassuring presence. And with a rich background as general counsel for a billion-dollar enterprise, Melissa brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to the table. Her acumen spans a vast array of business needs, from drafting and reviewing contracts, which if you said for me to do that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, no, please, no, to the intricacies of trademark filing and enforcement. Each client receives her undivided attention, ensuring their legal matters are managed with the utmost care. So beyond her legal practice, Melissa is deeply committed to supporting and uplifting women across all professional realms, and she is an active member of the Dallas Women's Lawyer Association. She passionately advocates for women's advancement, not just in law, but in all industries. Her dedication extends to educating and empowering female entrepreneurs, offering workshops and seminars focused on intellectual property rights and beyond. Her contributions have not gone unnoticed. Her insights have graced the pages of Trademark Lawyer magazine, and she has been recognized as one of D Magazine's best lawyers under 40 in both 2021 and last year, 2023. So join us as we welcome Melissa Gray. Melissa, thank you so much for being here.
Wow, thank you so much. Making me sound good.
Yeah. So to start off, I like to ask everybody, if you were at a dinner party, what would you say if somebody came up and asked you, what do you do?
Oh man. I am an advocate for business owners, and I help them with their legal needs so they can focus on building their brands. That was what I would say.
Amazing. So when you were a kid, so you're a lawyer, but when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Gosh, I was the youngest of 5 girls. So I went through the gamut of profession. And I think I was convinced that I was going to be like a professional baton twirler and like
I've never had that answer on before. That's amazing.
All 5 of us would twirl baton in the street in my house, like outside in my neighborhood. And we were like known as the Howard sisters. And we had our own little team. And it was part of my life from the age of like 3 on. So I think I was really invested in it. And then I hit like puberty and I was like, this is not happening.
This is actually not cute anymore.
It was cute, but and
I'm sure it was, yeah.
We're awesome athletes, but really but I did always, and it's so cheesy. I loved Law and Order. I loved My Cousin Vinny, like A Few Good Men, all of those shows where they show the attorneys advocating so much for their clients and arguing. It was definitely, the media played a part in the ultimate decision to go to law school for sure.
I can't get this image out of my head of like the 5 of you marching down the street with your batons. That is amazing.
It's one that you won't forget easily.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Did your mom twirl baton? Like, how did that?
No, she was a stay-at-home mom of 5 girls, and she wanted everyone to be in the same activity. So we literally had a coach come to our house every day and teach us baton.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh. I love that that's like what she chose for you guys.
Right.
Um, so as you were growing up watching Law and Order, and that's so funny that you say that because I did mock trial in high school and it was like such a fun experience. I loved it. And I got super into Law and Order also. I mean, it's like the show with you can watch a new episode like every day of your life. Like there are so many episodes. But I totally resonate with that because I got really, really into it. And like, what was a movie with Matthew McConaughey, A Time to Kill or something like that? Like that movie was so he's like this amazing lawyer in it. But they're really powerful. Those movies, like courtroom dramas, are popular for a reason. So as you were like getting really into that, when did the decision of this is actually what I'm going to go do become real?
I did not do myself any favors in college. I was super indecisive about my major and everything else. By the time I got out, I had a 4-year degree in international affairs, and I was like, actually gonna go teach English in South Korea. And my parents were like, no, actually, you're not going to do that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go to law school. And I applied to one law school because they didn't have an essay requirement, and I got in. And that's it. I mean, it's not a sexy story. It's not super. I always knew my parents guided me during that period of adolescence where I was lost and a little bit indecisive. And they, once I got there and I really started digging into the academic part, it was clear that it was the right decision. I enjoyed what I learned. I excelled in the classes. I was on law review. I mean, it was just the stars aligned once I got there, but it wasn't necessarily like I always knew that I was going to go.
Mm.
And I ended up meeting my husband there, so it was nice. I guess that's what was supposed to happen. But
Yeah, like kismet. What types of, did you have any specific personality traits that you think that your parents kind of like picked up on to help sort of push you towards law?
yeah, I think having 5 daughters was probably. I mean, first of all, it was insane, but second,
I
it got
cannot
along very
even imagine
efficient.
like the amount of estrogen in that.
Mhm. And like, just the immediate response from everyone is your poor dad, which yes and no, because he was blessed with 5 girls and we're awesome. But it's definitely like we had a variation. Like my oldest sister's adopted from Guatemala. She had like her own learning challenges. My sister that's immediately like next to her became a teacher. The one in the middle tried to go to college a few times, and then she ended up like finding her path in cosmetology later in life. Then we had another teacher. And so everybody was so academically just inclined in different ways. So
Mm.
I think for me, I was always like school was not effort to me. Academics came pretty naturally, but I was also equally right brained and left brained. Like my SATs, for example, were even, which
Wow.
is, it's hard to go one way or the other, which is why I have this creative side to me. And I also have this very intellectual side to me. So finding a path that was able to check all those boxes, I never felt that in college. And I think that I'm checking more of those boxes now than I ever have, having kind of gone on the entrepreneurial path,
Mhm.
which is really cool because I think in the law that's hard because I definitely it was more taking instruction,
Yeah.
writing, reading.
Yeah.
Uh, but now that I've gone this route where I've opened my own practice, I have such a hand in the marketing and the things that are more on the creative side that I'm getting to marry those two for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I think that's so astute of you to I mean, obviously you're a very smart woman, but to realize that that's where that indecisiveness came from is kind of that like fear of missing out, right? Like if you're naturally kind of balanced, which I think is rare, first of all. I think a lot of people do kind of, veer towards one side or the other. Um, but when you're balanced, that's really hard because there aren't a ton of careers that are presented to us as like, this is an option that really speak to both sides without having someone kind of guide you or without finding it yourself, right? So it's like not a surprise to me that you ended up being an entrepreneur because it really marries a lot of those skills, right? Like the creative aspect and also all that red tape that you have to go through in order to create an actual business, which is what I selfishly wanted you on the show for because I am also an entrepreneur and want to know all of the tricks. So, well, first I want to back up a little bit. So, you spent some time after law school in a really big company as their general counsel. So, before we get into the entrepreneurial part of your career, I want to dig into why you chose the position that you did at the company that you did, because I think that will be really helpful for anybody who's either currently in law school or thinking about going into law, just to know like what happens after law school. And it's so funny because I should say, side note, I'm married to a lawyer. So this is like, I have this kind of conversation with him a lot, about law school and what it was like and how it really prepared you and how it really didn't for certain things. So you graduate from law school and what were your thoughts? Where were you at?
Okay, I graduate from law school and I take the Florida bar because that's where my family's from. And then
Oh,
I got engaged to my husband. He's from Texas. So I can't get licensed in Texas unless I sit for another bar. So I sit for another bar, which is fine, but I got recommended.
I was going to say,
Don't take
can you
the
also just like, hold up. So the bar, if someone's like, I've heard this, or if there's like a 15-year-old listening who's really into Law and Order and they're like, oh yeah, the bar, I've heard of that kind of, or maybe not, just super basic level, like what is a bar? Is it easy? Is it hard? Why do you have to take it in a bunch of different states?
And the word bar, that's funny that you said that because it actually has several meanings when you're outside. Like if you're a member of the bar, that means that you have passed the bar exam, but then you're also in the bar once you are a member of the bar. So the bar exam is, after law school, you apply to take the bar exam. In every state, it's different. And now they have the universal uniform. It didn't exist when I graduated, but now there's a single exam that spans like all 50 states. And then
Oh,
you
wow.
take a special like state specific one, depending on where you're going to practice. So it's called the UBE. I'm not super familiar with it because it's been a while since I took the bar,
Yeah.
but I took the Texas bar or the Florida bar first, and then the Texas bar. There's 3-day exams, various formats, mostly multiple choice and essay. And then once you get your results that you pass, then you can be applied to be a member of the bar and get your bar card that you have like a number and you have to put it on all the pleadings and you get your requirements. You have to maintain your license in every state. And it's just a membership essentially. Like you pass the test, you get to practice law. And as long as you maintain your standing, you get the privilege of being a member of the bar.
Okay. And you have to take it in different states because there are different laws in different states that you have to be, knowledgeable of in order to practice there. Um, okay. So you end up doing taking the bar in Texas, and then what?
Okay, so I took the bar in Texas, and then I had student loans, and I had no job, so I started applying everywhere in Texas. And the first job I got was actually in personal injury law firm, and it was awful,
Mm.
awful, awful. I never want to do that again. Okay, so moving on, that was like a lesson in what not to do professionally, and it was also a good lesson on like the type of person I wanted to work for.
Mm.
So stars aligned. I ended up getting a job at a intellectual property firm, which was a boutique firm in Dallas. They had a very good reputation, and I stayed there until I had my first kid. And then I had heard this. This is like a common misconception. I think that in-house life is less stressful than private practice.
Mm.
And I don't know why that perception still exists. It's not, by the way, but I had this whole idea of being in a company, maybe my structure of my day with my kids would be a little more manageable. And so I went and followed another partner there who was standing up their legal department at this company. They were a large manufacturer and supplier. They had like 32 distribution centers across the country. And I really thought it would be cool to be on the other side, like be the client, but also have my own business partners to answer to internally. And once you have that experience and check that box, you always have that experience. So I knew I could always go back to private practice, but I had a colleague that I trusted that was bringing me on to sort of be this legal department, and it was great. And I had another baby while I was there, and then I left on very good terms with my private practice firm when I transitioned out. And they had been trying to recruit me back for a long time to go back. And when they said, okay, come back as a partner, we would love to have you, my time at the company had sort of come to an end. There was they had been acquired by private equity. There was a lot of transitions happening. And it was in the middle of COVID. And I just felt like there was an opportunity to go back to private practice where it would make sense for me professionally. And it did. So that's what ultimately led me back to private practice in 2020. And when I got more and more established in the law firm as a partner, getting integrated into the operations and sort of the back end, and realizing all the things that go into operating a law firm, the less challenging it seemed to do it on my own. And
like the curtain had been Oz had kind of been shown. Yeah.
Correct. And I was like, this is not something that a person can't do. You just have to make the decision to do it. And I didn't want to keep building someone else's practice. I wanted to build my own, and I wanted to be able to use it as a tool to create a life I was proud of and that I wanted, and build my business instead of using my skills and hard work to build someone else's business. And that's how it kind of was born.
Yeah. And so what do you do now? So you have a very specific type of business. You're not in personal injury. You're not, what obviously, you work with entrepreneurs. Why was that you could have gone any route, right? So why did you choose the one you did?
Yes. So the bulk of my career has been serving business owners, protecting their intellectual property. And then just the background in-house was really at the heart of what I wanted to build too. So I saw this major gap in people that would come to me, and they were just uneducated about what they should have done. And they got to me in a state where things were messed up, but they could have been so much better if they had just taken the time to do a little bit of pre-planning on the legal side. So the concept of my firm and the vision for it is to really bridge the gap between DIY, your LegalZoom, your Rocket Lawyer, whatever. Those services are great, but they are not meant to educate. It's meant to check a box. And if you don't know what the words mean, you still don't know what the words mean. And so it's to really bridge the gap between that and the large law firms where they seem inaccessible to your everyday entrepreneur because they're too expensive, or they're intimidating, or whatever perceptions you have about them. The goal of the Law Spot, my firm, is to really be a resource to do early education and have accessible legal to just fuel the entrepreneurs into doing the right thing at the beginning in a proactive way, and not crushing their dreams when they're doing nothing but reacting to things because they didn't file their trademark, they didn't read a contract, or they didn't have a partnership agreement in place. These are very basic, but very important. If you're going to have a legit business, you need to educate yourself on what those things are. And if you don't understand the value of them, then maybe you shouldn't be operating your business. I mean, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's it's not because people don't want to do the right thing. They just don't know why it's important. So if I can get in front of these entrepreneurs by, doing a webinar once a month or having the resources on my social media or whatever, the goal is education first so that they can understand the value and make that part of their plan for their operations at the front end.
Yeah. And so what are the biggest, or what is the most challenging aspect that a lot of these people like your clients come to you with? Like, what is the biggest challenge that they usually face as an entrepreneur that they come to you looking for help with?
One of the biggest buckets of people that come are people without documentation that they should have when operating their business. So if you're talking about being in business with someone, those foundational documents like your operating agreement or your partnership agreement are setting the rules for engagement, but they're also setting up the rules for breaking up. And if you break up, that's a business divorce. Like, you need to know what the rules are. And maybe you guys had talked about it over drinks or wrote it on a napkin. Like, that's not good enough. You need to have it written down so that you protect yourself and that your expectations are met. And everyone's all well and good when things are going good.
Mhm.
But when things are not going good, that's when emotions run high. And that's when you want to rely on that piece of paper. So that's like the saddest thing too, when things are going really well and people are getting along and they want to just have this handshake. And I've just seen too many things. Like,
Mm.
I'll never have a handshake. I love you all day, but I'm not doing a handshake deal with you. And if you're not willing to document what we talked about, then that is a red flag to me, because I
Mm.
want to be able for you to rely on me and me to rely on you to do what you said. And it's
Yeah.
not a sign of mistrust or weakness. It's a sign of putting on your big girl pants and making big decisions as a CEO of your business. And that's
Yeah.
what an entrepreneur is. You need to be the CEO and you need to document that stuff. Um, and the other big one is not reading your contracts. Like, even if you have one, if you've not read it, I have a guy who came to me, they signed an independent contractor agreement, and it literally doesn't say how they're going to be paid. It doesn't say how they're going
Wow.
to be paid. And it's like, okay, well, he can like, under the terms of the agreement, he could indefinitely hold your commissions. Is that conscionable, like, under the law? No. But do you really want to have to go sue someone because the terms of the agreement were so vague that you don't have that
Yeah.
clarity for when you leave to get what you're owed? And so just because someone puts a piece of paper in front of you does not mean that you have to sign it. Or
Mm.
does that mean that you can't redline it? Like, you can make changes.
I actually really love that because I do think people get intimidated when they're handed like a big contract, right? And they're like, "Oh my gosh," and there's all this legal jargon, and if you're not a lawyer, it's very like, oh, like intimidating. And aside from that, you also aren't a lot of people aren't aware that they can redline it and that they have the power to do that. And even if you're not a lawyer, you can look through and be like, I don't really like this. Like, you don't actually need to have like a lawyer represent it or anything. Like, you have your own mind. You can do it, right? But a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people just get like deer in headlights and sign their life away, or they don't sign anything. So, what's the biggest misconception that people have when starting their own business that you've seen?
Misconception.
Or what's the biggest misconception that you had starting your own business? Let's put it on you, Melissa.
I think I underestimated just the value of investing in the relationships that I already had. Like,
Mm,
they were already there. And you've putting in the work uh forever. If you know people, you have a network. And I think that for me, I was so worried about getting new clients and this scarcity like mentality. But once I made the decision, really tapping into people that I already knew and the clients that came with me and just like serving them was the most lucrative source of not only work, but also like it was energizing to work for them.
Mm,
So tapping into like what you already have and not being afraid to like dive in deeper with your current clients, I think is a lesson I've learned where I was really scared that I wasn't going to have enough business. And, um, you're used to being fed work
yeah.
at a larger firm and the concept of doing it yourself. But it wasn't until I relied on myself a little bit more that it didn't seem so scary.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one for any entrepreneur is just worrying about getting the clients, right? Getting the work. So I think that's really good advice because we spend a lot of time like creating these connections and networking. And half the time I think we don't even realize we're doing it, right? Like everyone is a connection, right?
Mhm.
And really diving in deep with what you already have as opposed to trying to build from scratch. I mean, that's amazing advice. So you have 3 kids now. Wow. This sounds super cliche, but it's coming from a very desperate place of my own. So how do you how do you balance being an entrepreneur and being a mom and a wife? I mean, all of those things, but, I think with kids, they
Yeah,
don't have that ability to understand, as much as the husband does. So how how do you kind of balance work life?
it's been a journey, just like my career has kind of been a journey, right? And I think certain seasons of my life were really kid heavy. I had two under two, so that was a big deal. And I was in a firm, and I would get to the office by 8, and I would drop my kids off at daycare. And I mean, you just get through some of it and learn to give yourself some grace. But I also got really comfortable delegating. And we actually brought on another member of our family, essentially, that I pay for. So it's an au pair, and she's from Brazil, but she lives with us. She helps me 45 hours a week. She does the kids' laundry. She helps take care of the house and the toys and all the things that need to get done, but they don't necessarily have to be me doing them. And it still allows our family to function and allows me to be the best version of myself when I do have time with my kids. So I just would say for anyone who's in that space that is trying to climb the corporate ladder you don't have to be everything,
Mhm.
and you can hire your village if you need to. And I'm one of those, I don't have family close to me. So that was part of me, just making sure that I was doing the things that needed to be done. But I'm sorry, if my husband doesn't have time and I don't have time, then I need to find another way to make that happen, or I'm going to burn out and I'm not going to be a good mom and I'm not going to be a good employee or business owner. Maybe not everybody has the resources to do that, but finding outlets where you can delegate or just cut it out. Like you do not have to do all the things in order to be a good mom or to,
Mm,
the expectations on us these days are, everyone has to have an amazing birthday party. You have to have a Pinterest level, whatever. I mean, it's
yeah,
really,
it's
whew.
crazy. Yeah.
And when I had kid number 3, I was like, no, my my meter went way down. It's like, you get what you get, and,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's really powerful just because I think just the whole Pinterest thing, that's so funny you say that because I think of that too. I'm like, "Oh my god," like, we went to I have stories about birthday parties that I'm like, this costs more than my wedding, like, this is insane." And, just the whole I mean, like, we're not meant to do it all, and at some point and I don't want this you know, I follow, like, a lot of mom things, so maybe this is just, like, a tired comment, but, we're not meant to do it all, and however, obviously, like, it's a huge privilege to be able to hire people to help,
yes.
um, and if you don't have that, there are other, like, resources for sure. I think it is more difficult, of course, but I also don't have family around all year. My parents are snowbirds, so they come down for the winter, which is great, and we definitely utilize them when they're down. But especially like having kids in the pandemic, I feel like there was a huge, because I think, did you have your first during the pandemic or one of them during the pandemic?
Yes.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
third.
Your third one. Okay. Yeah. So
Right.
I had yeah. So I had my first one during the pandemic. And I think just the lack of access to anyone being able to help. As soon as we were allowed, like, we felt comfortable, like having people in, we were like, yes, like, let's do it. And the difference it makes just on every aspect of your life is so huge. Like, I can't even articulate because it is so alleviating, just your stress level, like your body, your everything about it. So I like that you you share that and you're not, like, oh, I have everything perfect and I do it all myself. Like, I just think that's not a realistic expectation of anybody. And if if a parent is listening who has this dream of doing something, for themselves in a professional capacity, knowing that it's very, very difficult to do that when you're also taking care of kids is, I
It
think, just
is.
kind of
It is.
nice to hear, A, and B, if it's really an idea that's just gnawing at your side and you can't let it go, like, look into, having the kids go to daycare maybe twice a week so you have a little bit of free time to look into that idea. Is it like a viable option? And kind of like going up from there. So it's not like an all or nothing, because also I think a lot of companies now are a lot more understanding, which is great. And with remote work, there's a little bit more flexibility. But I really appreciate that. I appreciate that, you acknowledge that. And
When I was sharing, a few of my close friends, my mom, sisters that I was considering, going out on my own, that was their first reaction was like, "But your kids are so young." I get it, but I also, yeah, they're so young. Like they they actually need you a little bit more when they're in, I think, the middle school and high school age.
oh my God,
And not,
yes.
I just that I want to be a little more established by that time. So I have more freedom then. So if I have to sacrifice a little bit of time now, that was my thinking. And is it challenging? Yes. But they also go to my website and they are like, "Mommy," it's a different relationship with them. They're gonna see and experience things with me choosing this path that they might not otherwise see. They're gonna have a perception of me that is going to be different.
Mhm.
And it's a cool thing. They already are seeing it.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. When I was growing up, this just came to mind when you were talking, and it just like came full circle. You just gave me like an aha moment. But um, my my stepmom's sister, who has two kids, one is my age and one is about 5 years older than me. What did she do? She was a personal trainer, and she was in that kind of industry. She did personal training for assisted living communities, I believe. And she worked when they were little and young. And then, like, when they got, I think, like, end of middle school, high school, she ended up cutting back and doing like a lot of more part time because they kind of need you more. Like, they need you to be more aware at that point of like all the like more complicated issues that they're coming home with. Right. And even just like the workload in school and college applications and peer pressure and blah, 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 like all the stuff is way more intense than when they're three. A little boy at my daughter's school, and they have this thing now back and forth where they're telling each other that their muscles aren't big enough, like it's just, which is like hilarious because my daughter is the tiniest one in class. Like, she's 3.5 and she looks like she's 2.5. She's super tiny. And I'm like, really, Penny, are your muscles bigger than his? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay. But like, that's the level of it, like, I can deal with that while I'm starting my business. Right. But when they're older, it gets a lot. You need a little bit more mental awareness and capacity, really, just to deal with their issues. So I think that's a super, super nuanced point that a lot of people don't recognize. So thank you for that. That is,
Yeah.
if anything, I'm glad, that came out of this. If anybody's listening and you get nothing from this episode, at least you got that. But I think, you have been super, super patient with our technical issues that we've been having a little bit today, and also with your time. So a couple kind of like rapid fire questions to wrap up. One, if one of your daughters came to you as a young adult saying they wanted to start a business, what would your what would your knee-jerk reaction be?
She would already have probably started one. She wants to do a blog.
Nice. How old is she?
She's 7.
Nice. What's the blog about?
She just wants to like record videos with her sister. And I'm like, all right, let's go. You can have, and they're so cute. They just want to like be silly with each other. And at the beginning, when I first started, I was trying to get more comfortable on camera and doing more videos for social media and all the things. And so they would see me and they're like, Mom, we want to be on video. So I would let them do it. And so and this is the nerd IP lawyer in me, but when my kids were born, I bought all of their domain names.
Oh my God, you're a genius.
I know. So it's
so good.
but honestly, you should, as a parent. This is nugget number 2. Buy if you have the ability to. So it was, super cheap, but I bought my kids domain names. So if they ever want them, they have their name. So
no, it's good. That's good. That's really good. I can't believe my husband didn't come up with that. Paulo, he's gonna be kicking himself. Okay, cool. So what is the best career advice you've ever been given?
Everything is figure outable, honestly. Like, if you've never done it, just dig in, try. And, there are people that can help you and support you. And if you say no, nothing happens and you don't learn anything.
And I think the everything is figure outable. I think that's Marie Forleo. Are you familiar with her?
No.
Okay. I think that's like her catchphrase.
Yeah.
Like
she's brilliant. Maybe I mean, once you get into like the entrepreneurial, like self-development space and you're hearing all these things, like I'm in no way saying that I made that up. Like, but
no. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like you're in good company because she has, that's like her thing. And it's so great. It's such a great like way to look at things because it is. Most things are like the more you say yes, like more possibility, right? If you say no, then it's just kind of a hard stop. What is the best parental advice you've ever been given?
Ooh, this one's actually new, but I love it so much. And if your kid gives you a hug, don't be the first to let go.
Oh my God, I just saw that too. I saw at Disney. I did. So apparently at Disney, all of the mascots, all the people, all the actors that dress up as like Tinkerbell and all the things, like they're in their job description. It's like they're not allowed to let go of a kid who gives them a hug first. Like they have to let the kid let go first.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one. And my kids are like hug addicts. And so it can get a little excessive, but it's still like
you're like, okay, let's go.
They're only going to be a little bit. And I thought that the not letting go first it was just a good like reminder that they're coming to you because they need it. And that actually like that refuels their battery, like
totally.
That connection.
Yeah. How old are they? So you have a 7-year-old?
7, 6, and 2.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What is the funniest parenting moment that like immediately comes to mind? I know that's hard. As I wrote it, I was like,
no, it's a good one. And the only reason it's coming to mind is because we just talked about your son like being sick or your daughter.
My son. Your daughter? They were both sick, and then she was sick first, and then he got it. Okay. And yeah.
Well, we have like 2 wings of our house, and so my daughter was coming to us in the middle of the night because she didn't feel good, so she ended up like throwing up and then slipping in her own like vomit, and like It was like, I know that sounds so horrible, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen because she was just so. She was like from a movie, and then she was moaning out. I couldn't have like planned this, poor thing. And then the other dog coming up and licking it. It's just
oh my God. I know the dog always gets in there. Like, oh my God. So the reason we're talking about throw up, I can totally see it. No, my son has like I don't know what it is, but like he doesn't even have like a belly bug or anything like that. It's just when he doesn't feel good, like it's like his vomit reflex is strong. So He does. He throws up all the time. It's like, and it's not funny, but like I teach at a yoga studio and the owners are like, did your son throw up again? I'm like, yes, he threw up again. Like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, he's fine. Like, we've gone to the doctor. He's fine. But the dog always gets in there. And I'm like, God, get out of there. Like, don't lick it. And it's like such a disaster.
So
But
sorry to bring up vomit on your show,
no, I
but
love it. I can see it. And I
oh,
can see
really
how
good.
you could be struggling with like, it's okay. But also like, oh my God.
This is next to the ball, and you're calling for your
Oh,
rest in the other room. Come on, it reinforced it.
oh
It's
my
just, and
God.
there are absolutely scenes like that, like straight out of a movie. And I'm like, this is it. We've reached the peak of parenting.
Peak of parenting. Okay, cool. What's your biggest goal for 2024?
Ooh, this year for me, I picked a word of the year, which is good.
Hmm.
Is focus. So my 2023 was like very whirlwind, getting up to speed, doing all the infrastructure things. So this year is narrowing in on what's going to be like the highest and best use of my time and like really being focused. So speaking is part of that. Just making sure that I am able to have the impact that I want and reach the entrepreneurs that could use me and educate them, even if they're not opening a business today, but thinking about it and just making sure that I get my message out.
Yeah, I love that. And we're recording this in February 2024. I have no idea when it's going to come out. So if people are like, why are you talking about like new? That's why. Okay, last question. What is your favorite way to decompress?
Ooh, man. Um, there's a lot that I should do that I don't do, but I really don't know how I decompress anymore. My gosh. Can we start that question over?
Yeah, sure. Okay. One, two, three.
Like, who am I?
I think that is the answer.
What's the on time anymore? Do I get to decompress? Like that is the answer. I don't. No, let me just God, that is so tragic in its own
It's
way.
not. It's not. I think
Um,
that's good. I think that's the answer. You just don't decompress. That's part of
I do. No, my husband and I, no, we really it's hard. This season of life is just so hectic. Like the mornings are crazy getting them to school. The afternoons are crazy because you're like bath time, bedtime. So the bookends are really full. So to decompress, actually, my husband kind of, we started going to lunch in the like meeting each other in Dallas and going going to lunch or trying to maybe like meet for happy hour at 3 where we still have coverage, but we just need some adult time.
Mhm.
So that we're trying to, it's not the sexiest or most glamorous thing, but we really are just trying to find those moments where we can reconnect and like, whew, okay, I'm not changing a diaper. I'm not, uh, you know, intervening in a meltdown or a fight or whatever it is that's happening
Yes.
that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So
No, that's so funny. My husband and I started doing that too because we were like, we're just too tired also to go out at night. Like you're exhausted by the like, oh man, we did one night. It was so funny. We were so excited to go to this new restaurant. And it was now we figured it out that we can have people here to put them down to bed, which has been like a game changer. But for a while it was like we had to be the ones because they're very close in age and they go to bed at the exact same time and it's which is great, but it's like we're done by 8 but we're exhausted, right? So we were so excited though, and I made this late reservation, and by the time our food came to the table I was like, should we just get this to go? Like I was so exhausted, like I couldn't even enjoy it. So the lunchtime dates are great. Like, they're so
good.
great. Yeah. Yeah. So
Don't
if
look
you're
until you try it.
even with
Try the lunch.
yourself, like, even if you just take yourself out for like a solo lunch, like, do it. Melissa, you have been very patient and very, very generous with your time. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want people to know? Do you have anything coming up? Any webinars? Any fun things to look out for?
Yeah, just depending on when the show airs, just I do monthly webinars. I focus on like the basics of business formations, contracts, intellectual property. So if you have if any of the listeners have questions about that or just want to know about the sort of foundational blueprint for what you need to be looking out for or have questions about, that is something that I just invite everybody to um, tune into. And I have just so enjoyed being here. Thank you so much.
Thank
And I
you.
appreciate you. Yes, this has been fun.
Thank you so much. All right. So you can catch Melissa at The Law Spot on Instagram, thelawspot.com. And we're going to include all of her contact stuff in the show notes. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm so grateful for your precious time and energy. And if anything resonated with you, please feel free to share with a friend and subscribe. If you're interested in career coaching, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Courtney@resume-careers.com and follow me on Instagram at Courtney Austin Page. Thank you so much and see you next week.